all this tracking stuff is great in the tech and all that. I believe in it. I like it. At the same time, you can't say, "Hey, what are those other guys doing?" What's going on in the, what killed me was early on with soccer, because soccer in Europe was really doing a lot of that stuff way before we were.
Yep.
And some of the soccer coaches were taking a look at, Bundesliga or Premier League data, and I said, "Oh, we don't have a guy here that can run water out to a freaking Premier League player. Why are we looking at the distances and times? It's just
Yes.
ridiculous."
Yeah, you got to worry about your own team. Like that. That's when we first got GPS at Towson, the head football coach was like, "Oh, how does this compare to other teams?" I'm like, "Bro,
Yeah.
I'm not giving you any recommendations right now. We're just collecting data on what you do and what we do. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Like it's got to be us."
Right. No, I mean there's no other way to do it. And the data thing is important. The most important thing about gathering data is to make your data better.
Ooh,
That's it.
ooh,
It's not about
yes.
comparing data. It's making your data, and you want them to bench X amount of weight. And it's going to be some time before we're going to see that, right? Well, you can't leap over that. You can't take the elevator to the penthouse. You've got to hit every one of those floors. So what's the virtue in looking at that? The way I look at it is, I think it's curious. It's interesting, but it means nothing to me. Nothing. And here's what they don't get about then. Don't get me started on data, because you're going to run out of
Oh, I just
battery,
got you started. I just got you
and,
started. Go with it.
and your headphones are going to fall off, and you
No,
know
I'm dialed in. What do you got?
I'm going to get grayer, as we saw. Well, I mean, the thing you forget about the data is that if we both have a tracking system, whatever, who knows, heart rate, whatever, we both have those systems. And then I want to compare their load. Let me just make it real simple, their load to my load. Okay. Well, the data doesn't, it's just a toy. There's nothing, it doesn't do anything on its own. It's going to collect all this stuff. Whatever you tell it to do, it's going to collect all this stuff. And then you say, okay, well, their data is different than ours. And I say, well, you're only just looking at the numbers. Here's what's really different: our room, our coaches, our scheme,
Yes.
our climate, our grass, our turf. There's all this other stuff that you have to add in if you really want to do it. And everybody talk about, oh, we took a deep dive. Dude, you're diving in a 3 foot pool. You're not doing any diving at all. You just busted your neck on that 3 foot dive. You're missing all the good stuff. So that's the thing that I think we're missing for sure. There, on top of the, so this is the way I say it, and I said this years ago, and Catapult, Vald, whatever they're great companies, and like I say, I like it. I think it gets me closer to certainty. That's what we want, right? I want to get as close to certain as we can, because nothing really is certain in life and training and whatever. You can't really be certain too much. So I like it. But it's it doesn't do anything. Like my son, I could tell my son, here, take this catapult. I want you to look at Justin Lima right here. Take those numbers and give them to me. He can do that. He doesn't need any, 5 day in service to do that. He does it in Minecraft, you know. But what it is it's operator error. I mean, think about this now. Think about this hard. Of all the time that you know about and all the time I know about in performance, there's never been more technology, more depth of understanding of biomechanics, kinematics, kinetics, and physiology than ever before. Still, to this very day, we've not seen any significant difference in injury reduction at all. Zero. And I say zero. Somebody said, "Well, last year we reduced our injury." Yeah, that could be just white noise. Let's take a look at it over 5, 7, 8 years, right? But we haven't seen anything. It's the practitioner. It's operator error. Look, it's like a toaster. You put toast in the toaster and burn it, that's your fault. It ain't the toaster's fault.
Yeah, don't blame that. Or like the car. If you get in an accident, don't blame the car.
Exactly. And so that's what just befuddles me. Like, how are you guys not figuring this out? Well, again, the deep dive. Everybody's looking for that 1%. Let's look at the fascicle and the Golgi tendon body. And I'm like, well, the Golgi tendon body would be good if that guy could squat worth of crap. I mean, you can't, that's not even nobody would consider that a clean. I mean, you'd have to stretch the definition for that to actually be a lunge. When you look at it, like let's do the basic things. Those things still make you hit the homer, right? I mean, you can make 50% gains on those things, and you're looking for that one little 1%, ATP. Come on, dude, it gets boring.
Was it baseball that did it because of Moneyball and the movie and analytics, because baseball had always had the biggest track record, or was it the fact that teams in Europe were doing it? Like, what drove it then, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, in baseball, it was, yeah, I mean, essentially, I was there for it. It was Billy Beane and what we did in Oakland, started all that stuff in motion. But it was happening in other places, mostly in Europe, and nobody really grabbed onto it. Because baseball was really one of those intuitive sports, right? I mean, I know this guy hasn't gotten a hit in a while, but I feel like he's going to get one today, type of thing. And let's be clear about intuition, right? It's not a crystal ball thing. Intuition is a background of experiences that happen like that. You see, they just flashes in front of you, right? It's that same thing to let you know, like, I'm going to take a whack at this, right? Boom, and you get it. It's not just something that you just, falls out of the air and hits you in the head like an acorn, like, oh, I think I'll go bench press this, like it's not like that. And so intuition is a valuable part. In fact, Catapult may have got a little pissed at me. I was one of the keynotes at the basketball one, like 150 years ago. But I said, here's the thing. The best results are science, intuition, and common sense. You have to have all three of those. If you don't have all three of those, you're done. Intuition, common sense, and science. You can't do it without the science, but you also can't do it without the intuition, because the science are just numbers, and the numbers don't have heartbeats. They don't have lives. So once you understand that, then it comes into the common sense piece. Right? Like some of the things we're seeing now, people are debating about these common exercises, and exercise has been around forever. Somebody finally just said, okay, let's just not worry about the science for a minute. Just look at that. Does that really look like that makes sense? And now all of a sudden we find out it doesn't, right? And so you just go, oh, okay. But that's going to be backed by the science. That's going to be backed by the science in the end. So, yeah, I mean, I love technology and I love data because it gets me closer to certainty. And that's what we all want to do. We want to be as close as we can to making sure we make the right move. Not for me, but for you.
Yep.
When I'm training you, I want it to be the best for you. But it's important to understand all those other things that are involved. Otherwise, it's just a huge mistake. It's not going to be fundamentally sound, and in the end, it's just a waste of time. And I think today I've seen it more times than I had not seen it. People are just gathering as much data and doing all this testing and not doing a damn thing with it.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about our membership site. If you find value from our podcast, you are guaranteed to find more value inside of the Strength Coach Network video library inside the membership. Doesn't matter the level coach you are, you can see all of our 170 plus lectures sorted 3 different ways. Based on the level of expertise coach you are, aspiring, established, or head, you can sort it by every sport imaginable, and you can sort it by every topic in strength and conditioning. This makes all of the content consumable, easy for you and for your staff members to be able to deep dive on any topic in strength and conditioning. Click the link down below to try the site out for 24 hours for only $1. Then your membership turns into a monthly membership where the price is less than $30 a month. For $29.99, which is less than going out to dinner by yourself, you have access to all of this content. Click the link down below.
Nothing. Zero.
I agree with that. And do you think that with the more and more profession, like the applied sports science roles, do you think that that's eventually it's going to eventually work itself out where people are going to become better and better educated on it? Or where do you see this thing going in the next 5 years? If you did, like, and I know we can't predict it, but like, where do you just see the field of strength and conditioning going?
Well, I think it's evolved it's evolved out a little bit, right? Because in the beginning, we were the data scientists. We
Yeah,
were the
we were
tracking
everything. We
systems.
were
We were
everything.
big data. Somebody says, it's big data. And I'm thinking, was data ever not big? I mean, even though we were taking average squats and deadlifts and stuff, I mean, it was still important. I mean, I wasn't taking it, for my health. It was something that's going to help me prescribe, right? And create programs. So I think it's, we did all that. We were the nutritionists. We were all of it, right? And then all of a sudden, these things became a little more um, specific and more.
Fractionalized, is
There's
that
more
the word?
expertise in those areas, right? We knew it where it became too heavy. It became too heavy for all of us to do it, which is fine. But at the same time, I think if you're not paying attention to all that, and listen, it's not that big a deal to be up on the latest nutrition or the biomechanics and all. And I think most strength conditioning coaches are. I don't think the contrary is true in the other disciplines. But I think you have to, the more value is for you to know that when somebody in the sports science or somebody in rehabilitation or some nutrition is telling you something that's not true, you need to know about that. You need to be able to discern that because listen, here's what happens to these people who have the fear, right? Like, oh, that's my job. You're doing my job now. You trying to do my job, and I say, no, 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 I'm not trying to do your job, but you need to help me do mine. And, I'm not going to get yelled at because you're not giving my athlete the best nutrition, or I'm not going to get yelled at because that rehab was really bad. And you said, no, he's ready to go. And so I set him up on the ready to go program and he got re-injured. So it's not that I want to do your job. I want you to help me do mine or we're going to have a problem. That's all it should be.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's people. I mean, this is a guy that has the amount of expertise that you've and the different jobs and places that you've had, like kind of kind of mind blowing. For anybody that doesn't know, give them the quick version of your background. From
Oh
how
gosh.
you started to, you mentioned the fact starting off at $10,000, but like
Yeah.
how has your role evolved from everywhere, even with stops at Powerlift and the final role at Cal State Northridge?
Well, so this is my 42nd year in coaching. Um, I started out at UCLA in '84. Well, that's not true. I started out in Chico when I graduated from Chico State, California State University, Chico, Northern California, about 100 miles north of Sacramento. Fantastic education and background to play baseball and go to school. I was a director there, an assistant at some point with a hospital-based sports medicine center, and that's where I kind of started coaching. And then I took over the football team at my school, and then from there in '84 I got a job. Spent 10 years at UCLA, and in those 10 years we ended up winning 22 national championships across all sports. Absolutely the most dominant school at the time. Um, Football, basketball. I mean, funny story. Football, we ended up setting a New Year's Day bowl game record, but then I think there was only like 7 bowls.
Yeah,
Now
right.
there's 107 bowls. Let's see. From there, I went to the Oakland A's for almost 10 years. '93, I went to the A's. I was their first. I did a lot of firsts. I know that. I was talking to somebody else about that. So I was the first assistant strength coach in UCLA history.
Jeez.
Then we moved. Then in my 7th year, we separated football and Olympic sports, and I became the director of all Olympic sports and the administrator of the room. So we were the first school in history to separate football and everybody else. Um, then I went to the Oakland A's and became their first strength coach in Oakland A's history and did that for 10 years. Of course, that ran into 10 years, 93 to 2001. Ran that into Moneyball, so I was part of that. And that was exciting. Again, something that we built. Took about 4 years off, went with Jason Giambi to the Yankees and, started a website, wrote a book, stayed there for a while, and then came back to UC Santa Barbara and was a director at Santa Barbara for 4 years. 2005 to 2008. 2008 was on my first Olympic team as an Olympic team member. So I'm pretty sure I was the first strength coach to be on the Olympic team, not just somebody who was coaching somebody and went, but I got the jacket and everything else to walk, but we had to play too early the next day, so I didn't take that trip. Here's a great story. So we ended up losing to Latvia in the first round. We're world champions, and then Phil Dalhouser and Todd Rogers go, and we play and so there's a they have a tournament and then they play the games, right? So they have a round robin, 3 matches. We lose to Latvia, arguably the worst team on the face of the earth. And Phil Dalhouser, who's 6'9", is hitting the ball into the net. And I'm thinking, we didn't come to Beijing for this. Is unbelievable. So we're like, so we come back and work out. And so my plan then was to work out after every match because I'm planning to play in the final, which we're going to be there for a month. So we're going to work out after every match. That way they can have the next day off. So, and then they can do whatever they want. So we're waiting in. Todd's there. It's like midnight Beijing time. Who knows what time it is everywhere in the world. But, so we're waiting. Phil's not there, right? And you could debate, the reason why we lost it, but really it was Phil that, hit a couple of balls into the net and things are like, god dang. And who eventually becomes the greatest player in the world in the decade, his era. And so finally he comes in late. Sorry, guys, like, okay.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.